Kaizer Chiefs fans have been critical of Jason Gonzalez as well as Ranga Chivaviro. But Dantan's Malisela has come out and has actually defended them in a process kind of criticizing Kaizer Chiefs of how they are using these two players. Because in his opinion, he says that Kaizer Chiefs should be using Ranga Chivaviro in a different way. He says that Ranga Chivaviro is not the type of striker who likes to run around. And we know this. There are some strikers who are very good at running around and creating spaces for other people, or even creating spaces for themselves and taking people on and scoring goals. A classic example of this is a striker like Harry Kane for England. He also is doing it for Bayern, but he's still scoring goals. But he knows how to drop into midfield, overload, and do all those sorts of stuff. But you have other strikers like Abo Lewandowski who do much better when they're playing in the box and not dropping into midfield to do other things. That doesn't say the other striker is bad and the other one is better. It just means it's a different kind of striker and they should be used according to their strength. That's essentially what Dan Malisela is saying about the usage of Ranga Chivaviro. And would you just look at how things are going right now? So far, he's only scored two goals for Kaizer Chiefs after playing a lot of games. And in most of those games, he ends up being substituted like in the 60th minute because, well, he's not scoring goals. But why is that? That's because we're asking him and we're using him in a way that he's actually not accustomed to. And we always say players are not Chiefs material and stuff like that, but we buy them from their teams playing a certain type of way and then we bring them to Kaizer Chiefs to play in another type of way. Now, I didn't come up with these things, they're just there. 5 ways in which we can actually use Uranga Chivaviro to his fullest of abilities. And this is not just based on my knowledge, but it's based on what I've seen other teams actually do and based on the players that we also have. But also these things have their own pros and cons. So we're going to talk about it and you're going to let me know by the end of this video which way you think is better. And if I left one out, you're also going to tell me that I actually think this is a way that we can utilize our strikers. The first one really, which I think is the most useful one, which can be the best for us, is the fact that if we can switch to a 4-4-2 diamond, and I've talked to playing 4-4-2 diamond before, because we said that Kaizer Chiefs doesn't seem to want to bench a player like Yusuf Mat. And because of that, if you're playing a 4-4-2 diamond, you are going to have Umthetwa, Umat, Ungobo, but you can also play Castillo at the same time. And in that way, you won't have people like me complaining about the fact that, where is Castillo? Why is Castillo not playing? So Castillo will still be there, like giving that depth in terms of goal opportunities and actually scoring those goals. At the same time, you have Umthetho sitting deep and protecting the defense, but you're also going to have Yusuf Mat, who's also going to be a workhorse in that midfield, and also he's just preferred by coaches, let's face it. So he stays there and he's still playing. And then what ends up happening is that you are playing Uranga. Since you have 4 people in midfield already, there is no need for him to drop into midfield. Instead, if you need someone to drop into midfield, then you can have whoever is playing alongside with, for example, Ashley Dupree, drop into midfield or make those movements and create space for Uranga, and then Uranga can finish those chances off. Now, you're also having Castillo making those late runs into the box. So you have 2 people who are aerial threats, but also know how to take a goal. So in that sense, you are actually utilizing Uranga further up the field and you are still solving the midfield problem as well. But the con of this thing is obviously the fact that the moment you play a 4-4-2 diamond, you are sacrificing one of your wingers, because if you are playing with Dupree, that means you are benching Umoti. And yes, Umoti has been playing well and Dupree has not. Well, he's just come back from injury, but it's just one of the cons because it's always great to see Dupree play because you know he's going to give it 100 and he's also creative in some ways and is also able to, just as I said, create spaces for other people as we're talking. And you heard me in yesterday's video when I was talking about what Mandla said about Dupree creating spaces for people. But now if you don't have Modi, who seems to be gay or like becoming better and better as the season goes on, you are now sacrificing one of your best players only to kind of accommodate one player. Because remember what Johnson said after that game. He said that it doesn't matter where the goals are coming from, because you can have a striker who's running around and creating space for other people. But the problem with that is that as a striker, as a number 9, Uranga is not happy with just creating spaces for people or sitting on the bench for that matter. But what he does want to do is actually score goals himself. So in a way, you're now having a frustrated player because his role is to score, but now you're using him to create. So you see, Guti, that's the thing that could be problematic. But then someone will say, nah, Mpilo, but you can always rotate. I mean, look at a team like Omen City. Omen City would have Jesus on the bench and start to Sterling, and then Sterling will come in second half, and the game would just be non-stop Man City attacking. Also, a team like Liverpool, you have Luis Diaz starting a game, but then in the 60th minute, you have Diogo Jota coming in to score or create chances. So it could still work. It could really still work if you're rotating these players. But do let me know what you think about this method. Method number 2, let me check my notes here. System number 2, rather, is the fact that you could just invert Uhlanti or Frosla. But I think it's more realistic to say let's invert Uhlanti, because Uhlanti is not overlapping in any case. So you might as well add him into midfield, and in that way you do not need Uranga to drop into midfield to make 4 players in midfield. But instead you have him and Mtetwa making a double pivot instead of Mtetwa and Mart making a double pivot, and then having Umshin in front of them as a 10. But you have Uhlanti, and then you have Umtetwa as a double pivot, and then in front of them now you have Mart, and then you have who? You have Umshini, or if it's not Mart, it's Castillo, then Umshini. So in a way, we have 4 people in midfield, and then Uranga can hold his position inside the box or further up the field to make sure that somehow we create space wide, and then we play the ball wide, and then we can play that cut back to Uranga, who will be in the box, not recovering or still coming back from midfield and trying to make a late run into the box. They've kind of tried to do this, but it hasn't really worked. So I don't know whether they haven't gotten it down to a T, because even Quinika, when he was playing it right back at some point, we saw him trying to invert, but it just doesn't work. I feel like Uhlanti Maumdlalisa to want him to cross, he's just crossing for fun. But maybe put him in midfield and see, invert him into midfield and see what he can actually offer us in terms of ball playing. Because, as I said before, Hlanti is well capable of playing football. It's just that sometimes he switches off for some reason. So since we know that he's going to play anyway, you might as well try inverting him. Number 3. So number 3 is the other one again, whereby it's going to be tricky to see this being implemented. Play Mart as a 6, play Castillo as a 6, play Teto as a 6, and then play Matlo and play Mshini. What does this do for you? This thing, what it does for you, it adds more creative players in the field of play. So then you don't need your striker to kind of come into the box and to come into midfield and add numbers, because these players, if Umatlo can create space for himself by doing what? By eliminating players. Because Umshini also can eliminate players, but if he's the only one, then they gang up on him. But if he just plays a 1-2 with Matlo, who's also going to take on one player and turn him around, and then all of a sudden he has free space in front of him, then that also becomes problematic. But if you have Matt, if you give Matt the ball, or let's just say Umteto no Mart, defensively the bashap ne, abeko bed. But good, very good actually. But when it comes to offensively, you will not see Mart turning a player, or like we saw against we Swallows what Mshin was doing. He would just turn between 2 people and do his thing. But you're not gonna see Mteto do that. He tries, but that's not his game. But now if you have 2 people who are posing that danger, who can just take on players, then now all of a sudden you have a situation whereby you can actually generate space by these players who can take on other people. You also have Mtutuzi Shabalala, who can also play in midfield. Imagine now you have Mtutuzi Shabalala, Nkosing Pile Ngobo, and Umteto in that midfield. All of a sudden you have players who can take people on, create spaces for themselves, and then at some point maybe force defenders to come out of position, then opening up space, and then you play the ball to Aboranga, and then you have a goal scoring opportunity. That's another way. What do you think about that one? Number 4 is the one that's a bit tricky, because a lot of people are saying buy people, because once again what Dan Malisela said is the fact that Kaizer Chiefs system yabo is a different from what Uranga is used to, because Uranga wants to be in the box, but clearly they are not playing that type of football, and that is why we're seeing Dupree actually being more suited because it's this movement and running around that suits him, but it doesn't suit Ranga. So why not buy another striker who's well suited for that? To which I say, who's that striker? And the first player that comes to mind for most people I know will probably be Kanyisa Mayo. And I will say to you, but Kanyisa Mayo is 36 million rands. And we know that Kaizer Chiefs are not really into spending big money for these players. So then that kind of makes it mission impossible. The second player that people will think about is Ikram Reyners. But then I will say with Ikram Reyners again, how expensive will he be to come to Kaizer Chiefs? And also, I hear people say more about Ikram Reyners. But isn't Ikram Reyners just another Ashley Dupree? It's not an insult. It's saying in terms of similarity. Like they are like a same player. A very speedy player who likes running in behind and then they can score goals. And then don't say to me, hey, Patutu Priwa Kecha. He wasn't missing this much with Stellenbosch, but somehow we Chiefs started missing. Or maybe it was we were not noticing because we were with Stellenbosch. But what I am trying to say is, when people say Ikram Reyners, I quickly think to myself, I feel like we already have a lot of players who play that type of football. So for me, I don't think buying is feasible, especially not right now in January. Maybe in June, if they see that this system is not suitable for big strikers like Abo Ranga, like Abo Gonzalez, then you can go out and buy someone else. But I look around and I actually think there is no one who can do that. And solution number 5 is just use Ashley Dupree. But then again, that's a solution that does not involve Ranga. We've already paid money for Ranga. We've already brought Gonzalez on loan. So he's basically someone and something that we can work with. And a solution that does not involve them is actually not a solution in regards to the context of this video, because we're saying, well, Kaizer Chiefs is not using him to his full abilities. Then how can we do it? And it doesn't seem like buying our way out of this or playing with Dupree there is a solution, because we already have him. We know that he possesses the quality to finish. Just look at his goal against Sekukune. It's clear that he can do those things any time of the day. Just put him in the right position and find a way to utilize him in his strengths. And then you'll see him scoring more and more goals. And you'll still be getting more goals from Abo Modi. You'll still be getting a more goal from Abo Castillo. You'll still be getting a more goal from Abo Dupree. So why leave it to chance and say, oh, goals will come from anywhere? You know, because if we know that we are guaranteed that we are going to get a goal, 1 goal in 2 games from Uranga, that's beautiful, because we know we have a goal from him at least in the next 15 games that Chiefs is going to play. He's going to score at least 7 goals, right? So he scores 7 goals, and then these other goals are generated from other places. And then now all of a sudden we have more goals. Because why settle for chance? Goals will come from anywhere. If you can say, let's make sure that goals come from our striker, and then on top of that, we can have our wingers, our midfielders adding to that. That's what I think. What do you think? Do let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, remember, equals alpelumoy.